Right, Zandvoort. What a brilliant performance from Lando Norris. For someone that came into the race weekend going, being questioned about their summer breaks and all that sort of good stuff. And then the question obviously came up about how he felt his own performance had been. And as Lando is incredibly honest, he goes, I haven't driven like a world champion. And then the risk in that is that, of course, that becomes a little crack that the journalists can keep sticking their finger in and causing problems down the line. But what he did was absolutely fantastic. A pole position lap like we would have seen from, Max when he's on form with the car, and Michael and Ayrton. Just one of those laps where you go, wow, 3/10, whatever it was, quicker than P2 in an era where it's incredibly close. And then having fluffed the start again, I was thinking, well, there's number 6. He just doesn't seem to get his starts right for whatever reason. Then comes back, manages his tyres and strokes it to the creme de la creme of a fastest lap on the last lap on hard tyres, worn, gets that extra point. That was truly world class.
And massively impressive. It's the small things, isn't it? It was the fastest lap on the last lap on the hard tyres that said to me, we said maybe 2, 4, 3, whatever podcasts ago, Lando, if you're going to get in the ring with a bear and Max is a bear, be very sure you are well prepared and you know what you're getting yourself into. And yesterday, he now knows what it is. He developed himself. He thought about it. Look at him on the podium. Look at the answers to the questions. God, he was sublime. I have to tell you that all of those disappointments in Imola that people were criticising, why didn't he do this and why didn't he do that, and then other races. God, he's learned. He's learned so quickly. And my God, what a performance that was yesterday. And it just goes to prove that is pretty much the same car, except with little bits of detail. And those people, and Zach Brown and the people he's put together, my heavens, that is one fabulous car, certainly on yesterday's experience. But then again, we were probably saying the same things about Mercedes a couple of races ago. So what's happened? David, we're being dealt up an unbelievable season here, and which goes to and fro, and we just, I have no idea how it's going to end. If you ask me, is Max certain to win the World Championship? God, I'd have to tell you that I can't make that assessment just yet.
Yeah, the point gap is now down to 30 points between himself and Lando, and Max hasn't won any of the last 5 races.
No, that's not true, David. You'll have to do your accountancy a bit better. I think it's near enough 8 points per round, 9. It's about 70 points, not 30.
What, the gap between the drivers?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I do apologise. I'll defer on the points that...
It's just, and the reason why I say that is because I did actually work out the thing mathematically, and that is that it's still a big ask for Lando to gain, on average, 8 points per race, which would give him 72 points, which would give him the championship. Whereas with 70 points ahead,
I'll confirm you're correct. 70 points. I'll never doubt you again.
Jesus, when it comes to money, when it comes to numbers, David, never take me on, please don't, because I'd only wind up taking your cash.
I hear you. Sorry, I spoke over you.
Anyway, just so as I'm attentive and doing my research for this program and this podcast, for fear anyone thinks I'm just ad-libbing and just getting in behind the screen, yes, I do my research. Anyway, my money is still on Max, because what we have here is, you've got Lando, but remember the Piastri is there. Now, Piastri may return a favour, I don't know, and I'm sure that will happen. But then you've got Lewis, and you've got, there's been certain disappointments for going into the future. I just believe that George Russell, his turn of bit of luck must happen. And who's to say that he's not going to win in Monza? Because that would be one of the, it needs a very, very strong engine and it needs a very, very slippery car to win in Monza. You should know that. You've won there. We were lucky we've won there. So it's a different circuit and it's a different setup for the car. The engine is so important there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's going to be interesting to go from the contrast of high downforce Zandvoort 1 week later the high speed challenge of the Monza. Monza's been slightly modified as well, so that will be another challenge in around the Ascari chicane. Just sort of referring back to the points difference that I meant, of course I was referring to the constructors, not the drivers. So it's only 30
you
points.
creep. You never were. You hadn't got a fucking clue. You were lost.
It's 30 points the difference between McLaren and Red Bull and the constructors.
Your head is scrambled. I don't know where you were last night.
I've been
Had you got a
working for
drink
a living.
last night coming back on the plane?
No. I was very well reserved over the weekend, actually, because before going into the week, I was with a few friends on a boat, and it was pretty hardcore, which meant I had to make a trip to the temporary dentist because in a small drinking-related incident, I lost half my front tooth. So.
Give us a look, see how he did. Oh, he didn't do a bad job.
Yeah, not too bad. So I need to get that permanently seen to. The weekend was.
That was
about,
hardcore. We don't go into that kind of stuff.
No,
anymore.
I'll speak to you offline on that one.
So I have a good idea who you're with.
Yeah. So the constructors really does feel that the momentum is well and truly with McLaren. You mentioned Oscar there.
Sure.
Oscar didn't quite manage to put his weekend together in the same way that Lando. And even if I think
They
Oscar
screwed
had
him
been,
up. David, stop.
Okay, tell me.
McLaren screwed him up again. They left him out far too long, and you know that. And they've done that before, and then the stacking at Silverstone. Look, as far as I'm concerned, and it's no harm, because I think Piastri has won his race. He now has the knowledge. He knows how to win and what it's like to win. But some of the things are playing absolutely away from him. And that is that I think they made a very serious mistake about the way they pitted him. They let it go far, far too late. Do you not accept that?
Well, look, I need to rerun that one to remember exactly. But I think that he has to own that he didn't quite get his lap together in qualifying. And that's where the difficulties start. And I have a lot of experience of not pulling together a qualifying lap. If you get ownership of the grid, get yourself at the front, that's exactly what you have, ownership.
Sure.
The minute you're on the back foot, which is where he was on the grid, having qualified third, then I think he lost that place again at the start. So the whole thing was going to be difficult for him. But my real point in the question was, this feels that McLaren have now the momentum to win this Constructors' Championship. And it's amazing to see where they were 2 years ago, last pretty much on the grid in Bahrain. And the Crown Prince Salman was in Zandvoort to see his team win this race. But it now feels like they're thinking like world champions, where I think even as early ago as Budapest, they were still thinking like, we need to just get the win, rather than seeing the big championship. And now I feel that they are starting to think like champions.
David, we were talking a similar kind of note and similar tone about Mercedes at the last week prior to, because, when you saw what Lewis Hamilton did and George Russell did was sublime. So it's not just McLaren. I think Mercedes have absolutely done equally brilliant job. And, circumstances in the circuit. I personally think that the McLaren is more suited to a slightly higher downforce element or a certain race. So I'm very keen to see how they get on at Monza, which is low downforce and high power engine and various things, and knowing how slippery you make the car and taking as much downforce as you can off the car. So it's going to be absolutely intriguing race. I love Monza for all the reasons, because a lot of stories come out of Monza. I remember this time last year we had Gerhard Berger and Jean Alessi. My God, that was some podcast to reflect on. I don't want to do too many more of them. But anyway, the reality is that Formula One is in unbelievable state at the moment, and it's great, despite the fact that I think yesterday was not a great race.
No, okay, no, it wasn't a classic Grand Prix in terms of action. And you're absolutely right that Mercedes Grand Prix have won 3 of the last 5 Grand Prix, certainly about 3 of the 4 before going into the break. So they were on a bit of a roll there. So yeah, it's the ebb and flow of performance.